Hey, excited to spend this month together. And as we look at this, I want to talk about something that we all have experienced. And one of the things I want to get right into, and one of the most intense lines, boundaries, guardrails that we can experience and be a part of is our heart. And so today I want to jump in because I think if we can set the table for how to set up appropriate lines in our heart, it will unlock the things that we're going to talk about and a lot of other things this entire month. So here's what you need to know. Your heart, ready? Your heart leaks. What's inside your heart leaks out. And you know where it leaks out? It leaks out of your mouth. What's inside your heart leaks out of your mouth. And the thing that we need to do is no matter how hard you try to contain it, no matter how much filter you try to build up, the things that are kind of grumbling and rumbling and bouncing around inside of your heart finds a way out of your heart. And it's often in places that you wished it didn't do that. And so what's going on? And so how do we pay attention to the little rattlings inside of our heart? How do we monitor our heart? How do we get into this? Because an unguarded heart has the power to overtake you. It has the power to overtake your relationships. It has the power to overtake. And isn't it true, sometimes when we aren't guarding our hearts and things start to kind of seep out, they can't be undone. It can't be unsaid because the behavior that kind of comes out defines the quality of the relationships that we have. And so we have to have clear lines. Now, I'll tell you a story. When I was in high school, I was a part of a youth group, and we were taught very clear lines. And we were told what to do and what not to do. And those were clear. There was no, we didn't question those. Those were just what you did. If you were a follower of Jesus, these were the things that you did. So I was playing on this basketball team, and we were supposed to go to a tournament, and we were getting ready to go. And my friend and I, we went to the local sports store, and we were walking around, and there they were. The greatest pair of basketball shorts you've ever seen. They were right there, matched our colors with our uniform. And so we looked at them, we walked at them, we looked at the price on them, and we were like, oh man, that is steep. And so my friend leans over, and this is what he says. He says, we should steal them. Well, here's the thing, Ryan. That was his name. I said, Ryan, here's the thing. I'm a Christian. I have lines. I have boundaries in my life, and I can't steal those shorts. I can't steal them. So here's what we can do. Why don't you steal 2 pair? And when we get to the car, you could give me a gift. And that's what he did. And that's what he did. And a couple days later, my mom was gracious enough to be doing my laundry, and she did my laundry, and she said, Paul, where did you get these shorts? Ryan gave them to me. Why? Because we were in the basketball tournament that we were there. And something triggered inside me where I literally thought my mom was going to see my heart on the outside of my chest because it was pounding so hard. And so I went. I didn't tell my mom what had happened. I went, drove over to the sporting goods store. It was a local sporting goods store in our town. And I went and I explained to the manager how I acquired a pair of shorts, how much they cost, and I paid for them in that moment. But in that moment, my behavior was modified. Now, here's what I know about you. I'm sure you have stories, some worse, some not as bad, from your childhood and your teenage years and your college years that are somewhere like that. Because what we try to do is we try to we try behavior modification. And you often start in middle school, and then you'll start in high school, and by college, you've really started to figure this out, and then you become a young adult, and we kind of learn the right things, and we learn what are the lines for my life, and what lines am I not going to cross, and some of you set lines for dating, some of you set lines for finances, some of you cross those lines, some of you didn't get close to those lines, and some of you set these lines, and isn't it true, you set these lines, and you said, I'm never going to say this, I'm never going to do this, I'm never going to go there, I'm never going to be a part of this. And some of you got close to those lines and you tried to figure out, like, how can I get as close to this line as possible without going over it? Some of you got close to the line, didn't like where you drew the line, so you moved it. You just moved the line and said, well, I don't like that line because it's prohibiting me from getting what I want. It's prohibiting me from doing what I want. So this line is clearly misplaced. So I just need to move the line. And you began to experience that. And so, but isn't it true at some point you have said some of the dumbest things? You've said some of the most hurtful things. You've been a part of some of the most harmful things. And isn't it true, after you said it, you probably did this. Or after you did it, you went, oh, I should have known better. And isn't it true? You did. You did know better. Did I know better on those shorts? Yeah, I did. I knew better. And so what we want to do is we want to look at these lines that we have in our life. Some of you need to draw new lines. Your lines are just off, right? And you're thinking it's other people's problems. You're blaming others, and you're looking at other things. And the reality is your lines are they just need to be redrawn. Some of you, your lines have become gray, and you need to retrace them. Some of you need to make them bolder so that you can see them, so that you don't get yourself in situations where we are. And some of you need to you've moved lines so far and you need to pull them back. You need to pull them back. So lines are a system. It's a system that's, we have them all over the place that are designed to keep vehicles from going astray. For those of you who watch online, and I know we have many of you all around the country, what you don't know here is for those of us who live in this county, right now, it's like National Curb Awareness Month here in Bourbonnais. I've never seen anything like it before in my life, and I don't need to experience again after this, but we have lines all over town. We have barricades everywhere, and it literally, when you're driving past it, you can see your doom somewhere down in the bottom of this pit, and it's every 6 feet. And it's everywhere. So we know it's going here, and so they've set up barricades to protect us. The lines and those things are there to protect us. They're there to direct us. They're to let us know what's off limits. And if you don't adhere to the barricades that are there, you're in trouble. You're buying probably not just a new tire, but a rim and more. And so lines are placed in danger zones. They're placed in safety zones. They're designed to keep us safe. Some lines are there to keep us safe. Some are trying to keep us away from danger. And as a result, we develop a standard of behavior that becomes a matter of our conscience. And the point of lines is so that we don't hurt others and so that we don't hurt ourselves. And so today, I'm going to talk about the most important line that we can deal with and set up. It's a line that will help you guard your heart. And in the book of wisdom, the book of Proverbs, there's great insight in wisdom that says this: above all else, Proverbs 4:23, above all else, which is, translated, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. If there's nothing else you do in your life, do this. Above all else, guard, set up lines, your heart. Because everything you do flows from it. Now we think, I don't know what I was thinking. But that's not what the wisest man who ever lived said. No. It's not your thinking that's flawed. You know what to do and you know what not to do. The issue is there's some things in your heart. So how do we draw lines or retrace lines or set up new lines in our heart? Well, I want to talk about this because One day, the Pharisees came to Jesus, and they were asking very similar questions. And so this is not new information. It's very, very old information. And the questions that we have about this are not new questions. I just want to highlight how this was looked at. And so what I want to do is look at Matthew chapter 15. We see this story where the Pharisees came to Jesus, and they begin to ask him questions about this because they start asking questions because they felt the disciples were crossing a line. We're crossing a line. Now, I don't know how it is with you, but sometimes, like, I've been told, hey, Paul, you crossed a line there. And I went, no, I didn't. I may have crossed your line, but I didn't cross my line. And it was offensive or something wrong and all this kind of stuff. And so this is what happened. The Pharisees are coming to Jesus saying, hey, your disciples, they crossed our line. They crossed our line. And so, Matthew chapter 15, verse 2, Matthew writes this down, very detailed. He makes it very clear for us. He says, the Pharisees come and they go, why do your disciples break the traditions of the elders? Why do they cross the lines that have been there for years and years and years and years? And this was the big issue. They don't wash their hands before they eat. To which we would go, ew. That's nasty. But what they were talking about is there is a ceremonial washing that priests were required to do before the meal to make sure that they were prepared and always ready to perform sacred tasks. And they had expanded this requirement that was for the priest. They had expanded the requirements that was priests only, and they had made it for every Jew everywhere. And the tradition lines were to keep Jews. They drew lines, and the Jewish lines were the Ten Commandments. You have the Ten Commandments. But then over time, over hundreds of years, the Jewish lines of the Ten Commandments, they drew new lines and said, ooh, we have some people getting pretty close to those lines. Let's move the lines. Let's make it more stringent. Let's make it more adherent. We drew new lines, so now you got to cross over 3 lines before you break the actual line. It's like a rumble strip on the road. They drew a bunch of them going, we don't want you to fall off the cliff, so we're going to put a few things next to the cliff so that something triggers in you that goes, woo, I got to wake up, I got to pull the car over. Okay, well, I'm getting too close to the line. I'm too far going over the line. And this is kind of how the law had gone over hundreds of years. They began to do this. And so this was something now required for everyone, and it evolved to equal importance to the Ten Commandments, the laws of Moses, which is essentially like making a rule like, hey, don't take food into the living room. Right? That's like a law that's protecting, different various things. And so Jesus said to these people who are saying, hey, they are crossing the line. They've crossed the line. What are you going to do about it? This is what Jesus said. He says, Jesus replied, so why do you break the commandment of God for the sake of tradition? Which is like, why are you so concerned about preserving traditions? And he says, you're hypocrites, which is essentially like, don't speak disrespectfully to mom that way. Don't talk to your mom that way. Why would you, it says honor your mother and father. Why are you doing that? Then he goes on and he says, for God said, honor your father and mother. But you say that if anyone declares that what might have been used to help their father or mother is devoted to God, they are not to honor their father and mother with it. So a tradition whereby a person would sort of dedicate their possessions to God, the temple, but maintain control of their living is what's at stake here. And Jesus is kind of getting into the root of this because they're trying to debate like they crossed the line, no they did, and yes they did, and all this kind of stuff. So, verse 6, Jesus says, thus you nullify the word of God for the sake of your traditions. It's not the law you're concerned about, it's your traditions. And he says, you guys are hypocrites. Verse 10. Jesus called the crowd to him and said, listen and understand. He goes, I want you to understand something. What goes into something's mouth, so all the food restrictions, dietary laws, all these things, he goes, you need to understand, you're trying to keep this list of food laws. He goes, but what goes into your mouth does not defile them. That's not what makes you unworthy. And he has a new shift. He says it's what comes out of your mouth, not what you put in your mouth. What comes out of your mouth, that's what defiles them. And he puts this whole new commandment because all these people have been running around trying to figure out, like, we can't eat this, we can't eat that. And Jesus says, do you not understand? God's more bothered by what you say than what you eat or how you eat it. So Peter then jumps in, and he goes, can you, like, explain this but go slower this time? So I think Jesus decides to have a little fun with Peter, and he says, are you still so dull? Verse 16, which translated is like, are you just slow? Are you unintelligent? Are you stupid? Like, do you not understand? So I'm going to read the next verse, verse 17, as if you're explaining to a child who's looking at you going, I just don't understand. I don't know how the clothes can't get into the hamper. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. It's the craziest thing. My socks ended up on the floor. I don't know. I don't even understand. So I kind of view Jesus as responding in this way. Don't you see that whatever enters into the mouth goes to the stomach and then goes out the body? To which everybody's like, ew. He goes, yeah, we get that. That's not what we're talking about. Jesus goes, no, that is what we're talking about. Verse 18. But the things that come out of a person's mouth, it's not coming from the stomach. It comes from the heart. And a lot of times what comes out of your heart defiles you. Because words that offend others offend God. This was a complete reversal because they said, no, our words don't matter. What we eat matters. How we clean ourselves matters. Those are the things that keep us clean. Jesus says, no, it's what comes out of your heart that matters. And this is what he says, verse 19. For out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, and slander. These behaviors towards other people, all of this horizontal movement with how you treat one another, that's what defiles a person. Mistreating other people defiles you. Not your dietary restrictions or, or how you clean your fork and all these, because that was a thing, and whether or not you use a stone plate, which is a thing, and all these kinds of things. He goes, verse 20, these are what defile a person, but eating with unwashed hands, that doesn't defile you. That just, you just might get sick. But it doesn't defile you and before God. He says, if what harms people offends God and the behaviors to them, then that's what you need to do, because our behavior will eventually mirror our heart. And we can't separate the two. Your behavior is a condition of your heart. Oh, that person is just so wonderful, kind, loving. What's that mirroring? Their heart. That person is just critical, harsh, what's that mirroring? Their heart. Do you know anyone who blew up a career, blew up their finances, blew up a relationship? You know how that happened? Well, they did this. No. Do you know how that happened? Something on the inside got loose and it went on the outside. Because they had something on the inside that they didn't deal with. So what I want to do this morning with our remaining time is I want to talk about four things that if you store them in your heart, if you keep them in your heart, you're going to have some staggering problems with your words and your behavior. You're going to have heart problems, not cholesterol. These are major, major heart problems. And when you manage these, we need to condition these. We need to draw the lines in such a place that when these things show up in your life, they should ding your conscience. They should ding your conscience. They should tip you off that, oh, I've got work to do. This is something I need to work on. This is something I have to go. They should get so much tension inside of us that we know that it requires our attention. It's when people talk to us, it's like when my mom talked to me and she's like, where did you get these shorts? All of a sudden, ding, 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 right? There's a problem that needs to be adjusted. So these are the lines we have to pay attention to in our heart. First one is guilt. Guilt. Second one is anger in your heart. I'm not angry, I know, but do you have anger in your heart? Greed and jealousy. I want to spend a little bit of time with each one of these. So this is what guilt says. Guilt says, I owe you. Guilt says, I did something that you don't know about. That was me in high school. I did something that you don't know about, and what it does is it builds walls in your life, and it makes you inauthentic, it makes you dishonest, it makes you susceptible to secrets and telling secrets, and it creates a distance and a barrier between yourself and others, which creates a barrier between yourself and God. It seeps into our words, it seeps into our behavior, and it ultimately seeps into our relationships, and it causes us to do things and react and respond in ways that can be devastating because there's an inequity, and I've done something that I don't want to talk about, and I owe you something. You just don't know it. Anger. Anger's the opposite. Anger says, you owe me. You owe me. You hurt me, you took from me, you didn't pay me back for what happened. Anger starts to leak, and it becomes isolated in the relationships of origins, and it becomes a real problem. When you get angry at someone, somebody has done something or taken something, and there's an inequity that you just go, you owe me, and you may not talk about it, you just look at them and go, you took embarrassment, you took time, you took whatever you took, and so you owe me. And until you pay up, or I pay you back, there's going to be a problem. And then greed says, I owe me. I owe me. Greed is the assumption that everything in your life is for your consumption. That's it. I owe me. This is when you take resources, time. Where are you going to do that for? Oh, I owe me. Why? Well, I did all this other stuff. I deserve it. What are you doing with all this money that you've earned? Well, it's for me. It's for me. And what you do is these people compete with stuff. And they constantly try to stuff themselves, get stuff, buy stuff, for themselves. And they constantly say, well, I deserve it. I've earned it. I've put in my time. I've put these kinds of things. And these people usually aren't generous at all. And when it comes time to talk about generosity, they continually think that, well, I need more. I need more. See how the problem just keeps perpetuating itself? Well, I need more. If I had more, then I would be generous with my time. I would help you out. I would give to your situation. I would help on these kinds of things. But these people constantly are stuck in the trap because of their heart. It's a heart issue. It's not a dollar issue, and not a dollar issue at all. Not a calendar issue. It's a heart issue that you think, this is all for me. And that leaks. Jealousy says, life owes me. Life's not been fair. You've not gotten what you felt like you deserved. It wasn't fair. And you don't like other people. And you know why you don't like other people? It's because you don't like you. And when other people trip, when other people fail, when other people get hurt and mess up, you secretly celebrate that. Because it's a way that you kind of feel justified. And you'll say crazy stuff. You don't even believe in karma, but you're like, karma. True? And you're kind of happy about it. So what I want to do is I want to tell you four preventative exercises, really, that can begin to kind of be antidotes for these four things, because these are the places where we're going to be able to draw lines in our life, and these are things we need to add to our life so that the things in our heart can be dealt with so we don't blow something up. And so this is optional if you're not a Christian. If you're not a Christian, this is just optional. It's just good advice. But if you are a Christian, not optional. These aren't like, well, maybe, no. If you're a Christian, these are not optional. If you're not a Christian and you're not there yet, then that's just good advice. But these are the lines that you need to begin to create for yourself. So if you think that guilt, if somebody owes you, or I owe you, if I owe you because what you did, you got to confess. You got to go back to the store. You need to pay up. If you've been holding a secret that you don't want to talk about because you're afraid something's going to happen, you need to tell somebody. You got to confess. You have to confess. And yes, your reputation and your marriage may take a hit, but the damage is minimized, because here's what you may not know. I found out the hard way in my life. Secrets suck the life out of you. And they suck the life out of your faith, and they suck the life out of your relationships. Confess. Oh, I can't confess. Confess. You don't have to tell the world, but you do need to tell a few people. You need to be about 60% honest with, everybody in your life. You need to be about 80% honest with, 10 to 20 people in your life. And you need to have 2 or 3 people that you're 100% honest with, because secrets will destroy you. Second thing, anger. When you have somebody who, owes you, you got to forgive them. But you need to identify exactly what's been taken. And then you need to do the hardest thing imaginable, which is you need to cancel their debt. Well, I feel like I'm letting them off the hook. You know what? You are. But you're also letting yourself off the hook as well. And the damage is minimized. But you're hurting the people closest to you because you won't forgive the person who hurt you. The next one seems the easiest, but it may be one of the hardest too. It's greed. I owe me. Give. Be generous. You know how you fight greed? Give stuff away. Give stuff away. Some of you need to go fill up your car and go to Goodwill today. Ha ha! You don't own me. Because some of you walk around your closets in your garage and go, yeah, I might need that someday. For what? They ain't gonna make a museum about your old stuff. It's not happening. Nobody's going to pay money to see that. Give it away. Write some big checks. Don't even wait to be asked. Well, if somebody asks me, I'll give it to them. Don't wait. Give somebody something precious today that has meaning and value. And I promise you, greed will be in the back seat and out of the car so fast you can't even imagine, but you got to give some stuff. The best way to reprioritize your life is to give stuff away. Give it away. When you give money and time and stuff away to other people, it just cripples greed. It just cripples it. Last thing, jealousy. Boy, this is just a problem. When you start thinking life owes you, here's the thing. Acknowledge that the real problem that is probably you're not even mad at life. Here's what I found out through just my own journey and, going through the process years ago of losing a daughter. I struggled with this one. You know why? Because it wasn't that I felt like life owed me. I felt like God did. When you deal with this and this stays in and so everybody who had a healthy kid, and my lines got all out of whack. When your lines get out of whack, you start to move them, you start to push them, you start to rebel against them, you get mad at them, you start to get frustrated with them. And the antidote for this is celebrate. You got to celebrate. Celebrate what God has given you. Celebrate out loud. Some of you have so much jealousy for some of the people you work with. Here's what you need to do. Celebrate their success. What? They didn't deserve that. Out of the heart. Celebrate them. Well, I don't even think it. Okay, fake it. Fake it. I think you did a great job. I really don't. Fake. Your lines are so messed up. They're so jacked up. You can't even get it out right. You got to practice. You have to practice and celebrate. And you got to get in front of the mirror, and we got to work these things out, and we're going to do this where guilt, anger, greed, jealousy, you have to get serious and say, anger, guilt, greed, jealousy, you are not my master. So I'm going to tell, I'm going to confess, I'm going to forgive, I'm going to give, and I'm going to celebrate. And I'm going to draw new lines in my life so that I order things for my own safety and protection and those around me so that I can begin to honor God and treat people the way that they need to be treated because that's what God's asked me to do. And then you will with a clean heart, be able to honestly do what the Apostle Paul said, and you're going to live this life. This is the life you will live in Philippians chapter 4, verse 7. And this is something, and you're going to need this because so many of you are taking sleeping pills and you're seeing all kinds of stuff to try to get rid of anxiety and all this stuff. And this is what the Apostle Paul says. Then the peace of Christ, the peace of God. Who wants that? I mean, like everybody be like, yeah, I'll take that. Then the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. Yeah, ain't gonna make sense. I know. It's gonna transcend all understanding. It will help you guard your heart. It will help you with these lines and your minds in Christ Jesus. When my kids were young, I still got one that's young. The other two are bigger. Put them to bed every night. We'd ask this question. How's your heart? How's your heart? Not how was your behavior today? Did we? Graham's here in the service today. He's old now. We didn't ask how's your behavior. We asked how's your heart? How's your heart? Not how is your behavior. Behavior modification creates duplicity. Because I can act one way with this group, I can act another way with this group, another way with this group, another way with this group, and just kind of play the game, right? Not helpful. How's your heart? Cuts right to it. You have any secrets? You mad? You obsessed with something somebody did to you? Are you having imaginary conversations with other people? Are you clinging to your stuff? Are you celebrating somebody's misfortune? How's your heart? How's your heart? Because Proverbs says, for out, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. So this morning, the band's going to come and they're going to sing a song, and you're going to have the opportunity this morning, and I want you to just close your eyes and bow your head and think about the lines in your life that you may have, you blew past the rumble strips, you changed lanes, you just went off the rails. And it most likely is from one of those four areas. And I want you to ask your Heavenly Father to say, hey, today, I'm going to confess. I'm going to forgive. I'm going to give, or I'm going to celebrate. Because the lines in my heart are all out of mess. They're just out of whack. But today I'm going to redraw some lines. And maybe as you're doing that between you and your Heavenly Father, because you just know there's stuff clinking around in your heart that just ought not be there. How do you know? Because you say stuff and people go, that's a pretty good indicator. No, it's their problem. They always are so sensitive. Great. Cute. So today, maybe you want to take communion and you want to take that back to your seat and you want to go, Heavenly Father, I want to invite you into my heart today. I want you to do some new things, and I want you to clean this out because my lines need to be redrawn according to your system, and not for behavior, but because my heart needs to be protected. Some of you may need to write out some prayers and say, I need to confess, or I'm going to give, or I'm going to forgive, or I'm going to celebrate, and here's why. And you may write that to the prayer and say, God, I'm serious about this. The way that I treat others is going to be a reflection of my heart, and right now I can't treat others the way they need to be treated because there's too much garbage in my heart. And others, you may need to light a candle and say, man, my heart's really dark. I didn't even realize it. And you just want to light a candle and say, God, would you help me here this morning? And the rest of you, or some of you are going to sing, some of you are just going to read the words, but for all of us, I hope that you would take this moment to pray. So I pray with you first. Father, today we're starting this prayer, we're starting this series where we want to take very seriously that we can get duplicitous so fast, and we can draw our own lines, and we can make up our own rules, and we can feel good about it until we don't, because we blow something up. We destroy someone, we hurt someone, because we tried to manipulate our behavior rather than monitor our heart. So would you help us, Lord, this morning to monitor, protect, and guard our heart. In Jesus' name.
Well, hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining us online this week. If you heard something today and you're ready to take your next step, simply text the word GP Next Step to the number 97000. We're so grateful you joined us today, and we'll see you next week.